folks. This is Pastor Mike Hoggard with another Watchman video broadcast. This is part 4. This will be the last one dealing with what we've been calling the comic con. Like a con game. They're trying to con you into something. And I'm going to show you and explain to you what exactly they're trying to con you into. It's a setup for something. We left off last week dealing with all of these New Age writers, Blavatsky and Nietzsche, and we got into Crowley a little bit, and I'm going to show you an example of some of Crowley's writings to set up what it is, where we're going, and how we're going to end this thing, to show you the end game of what the comic book, the whole superhero thing is all about. Let me go first to the scriptures. In 1 Corinthians 15, there is a doctrine taught in the Bible. I absolutely love this doctrine, and it's something that I look forward to every day. I don't like this vile body that I live in. It's overweight, it has sicknesses, it has diseases, it's ugly, it's getting older, and it's wicked and everything else, and I want to get rid of this thing. Well, God has a delivery system. He has a promise. He has a way of getting His people from this world to the next, from being mortals to being immortals. Let me show you what I mean by that. 1 Corinthians 15:51. Paul said, "Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed." There is a transformation coming. Now, he mentioned that this was part of a mystery. He refers to, in 2 Thessalonians, the mystery of iniquity. And he's referring to the coming of the Antichrist, who sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. All of these things over here refer to the mystery doctrine, the mystery religion. Blavatsky, we mentioned, Crowley, Albert Pike, Dan Brown, Marilyn Ferguson, all of these other writers, Leonard Sweet, Joe Smith, the head of the Mormon Church. I don't think that's his real name. Joe Smith, I think he made that up. But anyway, all of these groups refer to some sort of secret doctrine or a mystery of some kind. They want to keep it secret because they don't want everybody to know about it. Paul said, I'm going to tell you what the mystery is. We shall not all sleep, which means death, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. So it's associated with trumpets. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. I like that, incorruptible, which means that once this happens, no more sin, no more dying, no more sickness, no more disease, no more backaches, no more eyeglasses, no more diabetes, nothing like that. Nothing will harm the new bodies we're going to have. For he says, for this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So if you want to look at it like this, at the twinkling of an eye and at the last trump, all of us who are in Christ are going to be raised incorruptible to be immortals. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. And he says, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? You may have heard that before. The sting of death is sin. The strength of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. And so there is coming a time when there is going to be the sound of the trumpet, and all of those who have died in Christ shall rise up out of the grave with a new body. Not the same zombie body that they had in the ground. It's going to be a new body. Then those who are alive and remain at that time, could be in our time, could be in the next generation, I don't know. But we are going to be raised up to be immortals. Absolutely perfect, made like unto the Son of God Himself. Now, for everything that God has, the devil has a corrupted form of that. That's what we're going to be focusing on, because our transformation comes because of the work of Jesus Christ on the cross. Their transformation comes through the working of mankind. But and all of these mystery writers agreed. They all said that at some point we need to move mankind into an understanding of these mysteries. However we do it, doesn't matter. So they make films, TV shows, commercials, write novels, draw comic books, and then make movies out of those comic books. And those movies have a conspiratorial agenda to draw mankind into first wanting to have this power of the gods, and then actually accepting this power of the gods. And the devil has been working this plan since the beginning, and I'll show you that. We mentioned Crowley. We mentioned that he wrote a book called the Book of the Law. This was downloaded to him. No, he didn't need to get off the internet. It was not through Pirate Bay or any of these other file sharing things. A devil named Iowas downloaded or put into his mind all the words that he was supposed to write down in this, what was called the Book of the Law. And this Book of the Law, you see here the graphic here, he wrote Baphomet on there. We know who that is. That's the God of transformation. That's the God who is part human and part God, part immortal. And this book describes the ending of the current age, and a new dawn is on the horizon, sort of like in 2001: A Space Odyssey. A new dawn is arising, a new age. That's what Marilyn Ferguson was writing all about, the Aquarian conspiracy. A new age of Aquarius is about to dawn on mankind. Crowley called it the Age of Horus. And he said there was going to be a new breed of supermen, a super Aryan race like Hitler wanted. It's going to be a new breed of mankind, and they're going to be immortals. They're going to be gods, and they're going to have superpowers. And that is exactly what is being fed to mankind through all these different mediums, books, movies. Music is promoting this as well, and comic books. Let's go back to the Bible, and I'm going to show you the source of this conspiracy. I'm going to show you how it is brought to light in the pages of the Scriptures, so you'll know exactly what's going on. First, let's go to Genesis chapter 2, verse 23. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." Now I want you to notice here, I have all these words. Take a look at it here. I have all these words underlined here. And it's really interesting because we have the man, we have the woman. This is the birds and the bees. The man said, "Hey, I've got 23 chromosomes I don't know what to do with." The woman said, "Hey, I've got 23 of my own. Let's mix them together and see what happens." You all know that, okay? So when a child is conceived and thus born in the womb of a woman, that child receives 23 chromosomes from her father, his father, 23 chromosomes from the mother. Those chromosomes are joined together to make 46, which is every cell in your body has those 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs. They're joined, they're mated together. The Bible says in Isaiah, "Seek ye out the book of the Lord, none shall want her mate." DNA is like a book. We've explained that many times. So here in your cells, you have these 46 mates. You have 23 mates in there of the chromosomes where all of your DNA is, and it determines who you are as a human being, or who you are as a species. I'll say it that way. Here's the miracle of the Word of God, the King James Bible that we have here. If you count, you can do this on your own. If you count all these words that I have underlined here, you'll see there is exactly 46 words here. Isn't that neat? And it talks about the man and the woman, and they shall cleave to one another, and they shall become one flesh. And that's what happens, with the whole birds and bees thing. That's what happens. Now watch this. In this same Bible, after Adam proclaims this, in Genesis chapter 2, then the serpent shows up. The serpent is on this side over here. He's not on God's side. He is the antithesis of God's thesis. So the serpent shows up, and we have recorded for us in our Bibles the exact words that the serpent spoke to Eve in the Garden of Eden. I want you to notice this. Genesis chapter 1. And what I've done is I've kind of put together all the words that the devil said. "Yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden, ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil." So I counted all the words that the serpent spoke to Eve here. Exactly 46 words. Her DNA, her chromosomes. Because we know that from that point, Eve fell into sin. Adam fell with her. And so the first child ever born from both Adam and Eve was a major sinner. God had to segregate him out. He was so evil and put a mark on him. He was Cain. He murdered his own brother. And so Eve was called Eve because she's the mother of all living. And every human being, you and I, everybody, has this same corruption inside of us. We have sin. We're natural born sinners is what we are. But 46 words that he speaks to her here. He's targeting her DNA. It's like he's seeding her DNA with something. Now I'm going to take you to Genesis chapter 11. This is Genesis 3. 7 chapters later, we're going to look at Genesis chapter 11, because mankind, all of the descendants of Adam and Eve, are now together in the plain of Shinar, which is Samaria, and they're joining together, and they want to elevate themselves above mortality. They don't want to just be on earth. They want to make a name for themselves, and they want to go up to the highest level. They want to go to heaven. So look at what they said they were going to do in Genesis 11. And they said one to another, "Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly." And then in verse 4, and they said, "Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." Count those words in that I have underlined here, exactly 46 words. Now, here's what's interesting to me. All of this is in the book of Genesis. What does the word Genesis mean? It means the beginning. We use the word Genesis like, well, what is the genesis of this project? Well, it all started with this guy here in this laboratory here. That's how we use the phrase. We mean it and we understand it to mean the beginning. The beginning of what? The beginning of creation, the beginning of life, the dawn of man. So we have in the book of Genesis the old dawn of mankind, the original creation of mankind. Now, God has his version of a new creation. There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. Jesus said, "Behold, I make all things new." So mankind is made new, and that's what that transformation is, that change that Paul was talking about. We're going to be changed into a new body. The devil has his own version of that. So he shows up in Genesis 46 with his version of it. "Ye shall be as gods, ye shall not surely die." Immortality and the power and the vision of gods. And then in Genesis 11, we see mankind acting that out with their 46 words. What are they doing? They're trying to elevate mankind above where he is right now, turning him from mortal to immortality. Ray Kurzweil, one of the genius leaders of this movement in this world, to get mankind to go ahead, press the button, pour it into the test tube, whatever it is they got to do, to bring mankind to this singularity where mankind and technology, computers, meld themselves together so that mankind never dies. It's that simple. Either through technological augmentation or, as we will see, biological or DNA transformation, changing man's DNA. There was a movie that came out, and let me just go back to my childhood. When I was a boy on the playground in my elementary school, all of us boys used to play Planet of the Apes. We thought that was the coolest thing, and here it is. They make these movies about it, and then it's a TV show, and we're watching, and we are playing Planet of the Apes. We're the monkeys, okay? Or excuse me, the apes. And then they rehashed the movie, and it's all about DNA transformation. So, and they show you in the second movie, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, they show you how this whole thing got started. This is what's interesting to me, because I can remember watching the theatrical trailer to this movie before it came out, and I'm watching this trailer and I'm looking at it and I'm going, we're the monkeys. That's what this movie's about. And now that I've seen the movie, I know exactly what's going on here. I want you to look at this scene from the movie as the lead scientist, he was in Spider-Man, by the way. The lead scientist is explaining how they're going to make mankind better with this new formula. Look at the company that he works for. The company that he works for is Genesis, with the little DNA as the eye. Do you see that? Do you see the imagery that's being portrayed here? This is a new dawn of a new breed, of a new beginning of the godhood of mankind. And even though it deals with the evolution of a monkey, of an ape, in this case, little Caesar, that's funny, the little gorilla or the little chimpanzee Caesar, who is birthed from this augmented mother, and now he has this special, unique DNA. Now his eyes look human. Now he thinks the way humans do, and he's conscious and aware of his own self-being. And then he is smart enough, and he leads all of the other. He finds the formula and infects all these other gorillas and monkeys in this laboratory, and now they have the enlightenment. Now they're self-aware, and he's their leader. Now they have all been transformed into this higher state. Because remember, evolution says that that's who we used to be. We used to be that, and we were transformed and evolved into this. And they're telling you that these, even though you see it through these gorillas and monkeys, that's where we're headed. In the theatrical trailer, this is how they promoted the movie. And what I did was I did a screen capture, 3 different points in the theatrical trailer to this movie. Notice what it says. Evolution becomes revolution. You see, because here's what happened. Those that had been enlightened now take over the planet. That's why it's called Planet of the Apes. These are the monkeys that have been evolved. And that's what Blavatsky believed in. Blavatsky believed, in contrast to what Darwin was saying. Darwin was saying that it takes millions of years for even one little change to happen. Blavatsky said, Darwin, you're an idiot. Actually, what it takes is an outside intervention of some kind to transform us. And this is what Blavatsky, this is what probably Nietzsche believed in, this is what Crowley believed in, was that an outside source was going to breed this new Superman race inside of humanity. And there would be these mutants rising up that had the altered DNA, and they would be hated, and they would be feared, and they would be, you know what I'm talking about, the X-Men. X-Men evolution. And the X-Men, basically the X-Men comic series, and I'm going to show you what this X is in a little bit. Get ready. Some of you already know this. The X-Men comic book series is about these people. They're mutants. They have mutated genes in them. And I'm going to show you the movies that have come out that are teaching and indoctrinating mankind into accepting the fact that this mutation is going to make us better. It's going to make us into gods. What I did was I have seen several of these X-Men movies, and I learned something from them. First of all, I'm going to show you why they're called X-Men. Now, in the movies and in the comic books, Stan Lee wanted you to believe that they were named after Charles Xavier. They were the X-Men. They were the G-Men. Now they're the X-Men. I think it has something more to do with what the X symbolizes. Let me show you this graphic here. This is the letter X. Do you know what this is? This is your X chromosome. Everybody has them. Male and female has X chromosomes. The difference between male and female is that males actually have what's called a Y chromosome. And that's because every time we get around women, we go, why? Why? Anyway, that's men. But we all have this X chromosome in us. That's where God stores all of our crooked serpent-like DNA inside of these things that look like crosses inside of every cell in our body. There's 23 pairs of them, 46 in total, and they all look like little crosses, little X's. So really, we're the X-Men. They're awaiting our mutation. The most recent series, or part of this series of the X-Men, just came out. It was called the Wolverine. You see, he's the guy. Wolverine is the guy who, if you find out from X-Men Origins, Wolverine, you find out that this Wolverine, even though he was born at a certain date, he's like immortal. They can't kill him. He keeps living forever. He is already a god. And so the new X-Men movie, The Wolverine, just happens to come out on July 26, 2013. Now the date is 7/26/13. Let's add that together. 7 and 26 is 33. Remember the Superman movie. Comes out on a date that makes 33. 7 and 26 is 33 plus 13. 46. I haven't seen this movie yet. I plan on it. A teaching that is designed to draw men's minds to this concept of us becoming gods. The letter X, or the cross symbol, is it's seen in the occult world. It's an occult symbol. Let me show you a graphic out of Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. And he shows you all of these different crosses in here. You have the Tau cross. You have the what's called the Chi-Rho symbol with what looks like a letter P coming out of an X. And I want you to think about this. Here is a chromosome, and there's something coming out of that chromosome. There's something down in there, and there's something coming. That's what that Chi-Rho symbol represents. Notice that he's even got swastikas in there. What was Hitler trying to do? He was trying to come up with a new breed, a super race of supermen that would take over the world. I went to the Masonic House of the Temple Lodge in Washington, D.C. Now remember what the Bible says the temple is. The temple is a human body. And on the Masonic House of the Temple Lodge, on the outside you have a Greek temple with 33 columns on it, and you have a step pyramid on top with 13 rows. That's 46, by the way. And inside this temple, I went on the inside and I took pictures. Notice this graphic here. This is a shield with the letter X, the X chromosome, and something rising up out of this X. Let me show you this one. This is the wall decoration of the Masonic House of the Lodge temple, I think it was built in the early 1930s. They have swastikas all over the inside. Now this temple, this lodge place, some of the most powerful men in America who are Masons meet and gather inside of this lodge building. Yes, I believe in conspiracies. I sure do. Because of what I know and what I see and what I know this house of the Temple Lodge represents. Here is an ancient temple floor they dug up. I don't know where it is and how old it is. Notice the swastikas. Notice the DNA there on the side, the crooked serpents and the yin-yang symbol. That's all the fusion of opposites, male and female, sons of God, daughters of men. That's what that represents. That's what's coming out of the X chromosomes. Here is the the New World International Airport with the Masonic capstone on it, and it's built in the shape of a swastika. Here is, remember Isis and Osiris. Osiris the sun god. Remember Jor-El, he's like the sun god. Here is Isis and Osiris is always represented with this letter X, or this cross. Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent, the flying snake, the dragon of Aztec mythology. The Quetzalcoatl supposedly was a god that was killed on a cross. Now, before you start saying, see, I knew Christianity was fake, there is a real and there is a false. There is a thesis, Christ on the cross, dying for the sins of mankind, crucifying our flesh. You see, that's the thing right there. In order for us to be immortal, this mortal has to die. It has to be changed somehow. This, they're going to turn the flesh into immortality. That's the difference. And so here even Quetzalcoatl is pictured as hanging on a cross or being crucified somehow, some way. So we go back and look. I did watch. I went and just on a whim here. I had a theory that there was something in the X-Men movies that was going to tell you how they came about. Well, sure enough, they made a movie called X-Men First Class. Here is a scene from this movie. This is on the left-hand side. The boy there, that's Magneto. You know Magneto. He's Magneto and Gandalf. Same guy played them both. Here's young Magneto, and he is in front of this, hold on. He's in front of this guy that's a Nazi. that's looking for the superior race, okay, with the swastika symbol. Think about it. So here is young Magneto, Eric, standing in front of it, and the guy's saying genes are the key that unlocks the door to a new age. Eric, stop right here. Stop right here. What is he talking about? A door, and a locked door, and it needs a key. What could he be talking about? Revelation chapter 9. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the key, and to him, unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit. Guess who came out? Locusts. And guess who else came out? Abaddon, the destroyer, the king of the bottomless pit. So go back and look at this scene again. Genes, in other words, the X chromosome, are the key that unlocks the door to a new age. The next scene, a new future for mankind. And then he says, evolution. This is about the whole Comic Con is about conning mankind into going ahead, moving forward into man's next phase of evolution. Not a phase that's going to take place over thousands or millions of years, but a phase, as Blavatsky and Crowley wrote, Nietzsche, a phase that's going to take place as a result of an outside force turning us into gods. What that looks like in the Bible is in Daniel chapter 2, the fourth kingdom actually mingles themselves with the DNA of men, the seed of men. That's what the Bible says. Thus bringing mankind under their dominion, but promising mankind his next stage of evolution, Godhead. This is the mystery that has been held by all of these groups, the Mormon Church, the New Age movement, Freemasonry. Freemasonry is mainly based upon the secret of the Knights Templar plus Rosicrucian doctrine plus Jewish Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. I'm going to show you something from there in a little bit. Rosicrucian idea, the rose cross. Let me show you the symbol of the rose cross. It is the blood red rose with thorns coming up out of a cross. Stop right here. Look at this. Go back to this graphic of Quetzalcoatl. You have Quetzalcoatl on a cross. You have the rose and the thorns on the cross. It's the same idea and the same concept. Notice this graphic again. You have a serpent biting his tail. That in the Illuminati and the occult and the New Age movement is a picture of what they call immortality or man's resurrection. And let me show you what it means. According to Albert Pike and all these other writers, the mouth on the serpent it's kind of birds and bees stuff. The mouth is the female and the tail is the male. That's what that is. I mean, that's what you're looking at here. It's very, very vulgar. But remember, that whole thing of the man and the female has to do with the birthing of Horus, the age of Horus, the coming of the age of the Antichrist, where Lucifer's promise to Eve is going to be fulfilled. You shall not surely die, but you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Here is from a Rosicrucian website, speaking of the character of Rosicrucian Rosencreutz. His very name is an embodiment of the manner and the means by which the present-day man is transformed into, here it is, the divine Superman. This symbol, the Christian Rosenkreuz, or the Christian Rose Cross, shows the end and aim of human evolution, the road to be traveled, the means whereby that end is gained. The black cross, the twining green stem of the plant, the thorns, the blood red roses, in these is hidden the solution of the world mystery, man's past evolution, present constitution, and particularly the secret of his future development. Notice, go back to this graphic here. Notice the twining branch, like DNA, and the blood red, because your DNA is in your blood, and the thorns. Thorns is an incredibly powerful biblical symbol. When mankind first sinned, God cursed the ground with thorns. God uses the curse of thorns and briars all throughout the scriptures. Paul had a thorn in his flesh. God told the Israelites that because they didn't remove all the Canaanites out of the land, that they were going to be thorns in their sides and scourges in their flesh. Paul talked about his thorn was a messenger of Satan, an angel of Satan, to buffet him. Christ died on the cross. The Bible says he made a show of his enemies openly, and he had upon his head the crown of thorns. A crown is a king. We're referring to the king of the bottomless pit. You remember the movie, The Omen. What was that kid's name? Damien Thorn. So the symbol and the meaning behind the rose cross is that you have the thorns in the chromosomes, and that's the key right there. That's the key. And it's in there, and it needs to be let out. You see, watch this. It needs to be unsealed. Because your DNA, I'm here rolling up my notes here. Your DNA is like a scroll rolled up, and it's sealed. And it needs to be opened up. When it's opened up, it's like Pandora's box. You're going to let all this stuff out. You're going to let the thorn out of the X chromosome. That's what Rosicrucian doctrine is all about. That's what was being taught in the X-Men. That not just these particular, like Magneto and Professor X and all these other, there's even a character in there by the name of Darwin. He ends up getting killed. But he has the power to adapt. He represents evolution. The power to adapt, to survive. Think about it. One of these other gods, I was talking about these gods that had died and resurrected. One of them, who was also crucified, was called Prometheus. Now here's a graphic of Prometheus featured at Rockefeller Plaza. Prometheus is a god, I'll explain this in a little bit, is a god who stole fire from the gods and shared it with mankind. I'll tell you what that means in a little bit, because this was interesting to me. Prometheus being this god who died on a cross, he was killed because he took the enlightenment of the gods, or the fire from the gods, and gave it mankind, and the gods didn't like that. So they killed him. Remember, enlightenment. What was it that the devil said to Eve in the Garden of Eden? Then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So all of these myths trace right back to the scriptures. Here's what's interesting. In Superman 5, actually is what it was. It was sort of the continuing saga of the original Superman series. You have Lex Luthor, who hates Jor-El. Jor-El, you remember, Kal-El went back to find Krypton for 5 years. He comes back. He's got a little boy, 5 years old. He's got superpowers. He's like Horus now, okay? And Lex Luthor has Lois Lane and this little boy on his yacht. And he's got in the background, you ought to see this movie, a graphic or a picture of Prometheus. And Lex Luthor likes Prometheus because Prometheus is like the trickster god who stole fire, stole the gods' power from the gods and gave it to mankind. And Lex Luthor hates Superman because Superman won't share his powers with him. The god of Lex Luthor is Prometheus. So Prometheus stole fire, which is divine light, immortality, or godhood, and he seeks to share it with all mankind. So now we have another movie to watch. It's called Prometheus. Now I can remember, Prometheus is what's called a prequel. A prequel is you have a set of movies, but you want to go back and sort of build the story. That's how Star Wars was developed. Do you remember the movie Alien? Oh my goodness, I remember seeing this movie back in the 80s, and I'm just going, oh wow. Now, I haven't really kept up with all of the Alien movies since then. Alien versus Predator, and I haven't seen that one. But then they came out with Prometheus, the prequel to it. You find out in Prometheus that where these aliens come from, because there was a guy by the name of Peter Whalen. He was the CEO of Whalen Corporation, and he funds an expedition to follow this map. They found this secret map all over the planet, and Whalen builds this spaceship called Prometheus, He's going to go to this moon. He's going to follow the star chart to this moon because he wants to find the engineers, the people who he said designed humanity. Prometheus. Why does Wayland, you find out Wayland is actually on the ship. Why does Wayland want to go back to this moon to find the engineers? Because Wayland is dying. Wayland is a very powerful man. And he doesn't want to give up his power and his money, and he doesn't want to die. So he's hoping to go back to find from the engineers how to live forever. He wants the key to immortality. This theme, again, another constant theme in these movies. Iron Man 3 talks about a project called the Extremis Project. In fact, there was a graphic novel series called Iron Man, the Invisible Iron Man, Extremis. And you find out in the plot of Iron Man 3, this involves the invention of this thing called Extremis. And what it is, it's a DNA altering substance that has regenerative powers. In other words, and you saw in the movie, if you saw Iron Man 3, you saw, I don't remember what her name was, Iron Man's chick. Anyway, she ends up getting killed, but because she has been injected with Extremis, she comes back to life. And so Iron Man, now, he's transformed. If you remember at the end of the movie, he has that Iron Man thing taken out of him. He's got Extremis in him, and he doesn't need that anymore. He's free from the bondage of his shell of Iron Man. Maybe I'm making this up, but it has everything to do with DNA alteration to give man regenerative properties, thus immortality. Now, again, from the scriptures, let me show you what this looks like. Daniel chapter 2, verse 40. The fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh. Stop right here. Iron Man. Think about it, because what you're going to see in Daniel 2 is the iron kingdom mingled with the man world. Iron Man. You say, oh, come on, Mike. Stan Lee was just a guy drawing comics, tried to make money. You don't really believe that he was... No, I've already shown you that people like Blavatsky and Nietzsche, Crowley, a bunch of these others, well, I already showed you the comic book writers, they were all occult influenced. These people knew their stuff. They were being led by spirits to dream up these concepts and thus con and deliver the lie to mankind. Iron Man. I'll show it to you in the Bible. The fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things. And as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And you understand that concept. You cannot patch iron with clay. I mean, it'll stick on there as long as it's wet, but after a while, you can just knock it off. It will not stick together. And that's the king. That's why it won't work. That's why the kingdom is divided against itself. They're opposites. One, clay is soft and malleable. Iron is hard and permanent. And you cannot mix them two together. And that's why the kingdom of the last days will break in pieces and fall. It will not stand. And how does the whole image of Nebuchadnezzar is standing on the feet? How does, and it has 10 toes, 10 commandments, because the strength of sin is the law, 10 commandments. And so how does, if you follow this in Daniel chapter 2, you'll see a stone cut without hands, that's Jesus. And when he goes to bring down the image, he doesn't hit the head or the chest or the legs. He goes and destroys the feet. So now the image cannot stand. God's going to destroy two kingdoms all at once. He's going to destroy the power of man and the power of these gods all at once. That is so, I love this. It's so beautiful. So we have this concept from the Bible of DNA alteration of mankind in the last days. TV show based on this whole comic book thing called the 4400, science fiction. The 4400 was about these people that had disappeared all over Earth from like the 1900s on, and now they've all reappeared. All 4,400 of them. Think of the fourth kingdom. 4,400 of them all come back now, because what happened was you find out that they were secretly transported into the future. All of these people, children and adults, were given these superpowers by having their DNA augmented. And then they were returned back to the earth, to the present time, so that they could alter time. One of the things that's said about the Antichrist in the book of Daniel is that he is seeking to change times and laws. They get it right from the Bible. 4,400, notice the symbol, DNA. I never missed an episode of this, and I was really sad when it went. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. It is in my nature. I'm going, Superman, comic books, science fiction. That's me. I mean, that's how I grew up. I still have that fascination with it. And I have to be careful. I'll be honest with you. I have to be careful that I'm not just watching this because I think there's something to be gleaned from here. But I watched every episode of The Heroes. And sure enough, you find out, here's that symbol. You remember, if you've ever seen any of these, here's that symbol on here. And you don't know what it is until you find out from the corporation that has this symbol that it's like half of the DNA strand. And you find out that all of these people here in this movie, in this TV show, they all have superpowers. They can fly, they can transport, they can change time, they can do mental telepathy and put thoughts in people's heads. They have superpowers, whatever. You remember Siler? He ends up playing Spock in Star Trek. He's the guy that, in order to get the superpowers, he has to eat the brain of the people with the where do they come up with this stuff? But the heroes are all people who have had their DNA transformed. Several of these characters are people that never die. They can never be killed. Interesting, interesting. Captain America. Captain America is, and you go watch this, you know the comic book series, it starts out this little skinny, scrawny guy. I still don't know in the movie how they got the guy who played Captain America, because he's obviously got muscles. The CGI in this thing was incredible. You could not tell that was a CGI body on him, because he's like this big, this tall, and he's got arms this big around, okay, and shoulders this wide. How they did it, I don't know. But anyway, they're going to transform now this weak man. They're going to transform him into this divine Superman. How do they do it? Well, they give him this concoction of whatever it is. And then they're going to use, here's a scene now from the movie. I caught this. They're going to give him the Vita Ray. Now remember, this takes place in the days of World War II. They're going to give him the Vita Ray. We don't know what that is. Notice the graphic here. The builder of the Vita Ray is Stark, and if actually it's a guy named Stark working on the project. That was Stark's dad, Iron Man's dad. They kind of put that together. But I did a close-up here of the Stark logo. Because what it is, it's a winged snake, like Quetzalcoatl, like this graphic here. You see the serpent, the S, and that Art Deco styling where like everything had wings back then. That's where they got it from. They got it from the winged orb or the winged sun god or the winged serpent. That's what the logo of Stark Enterprises is. So watch this now, that's where the Vita Ray comes from, the life ray. Think of where Kal-El gets his powers, Superman. He gets them from the sun. Ultraman, do you remember Ultraman? Even the Japanese were doing this. Ultraman I loved Ultraman because Ultraman transformed this human into this giant karate fighter with a suit on. The suit was incredible. And he did this, and rays come out of his hand. And he got his powers from the sun. And it was done by way of alien intervention. Same thing. Spider-Man, the amazing Spider-Man. How does he get his powers? DNA alteration. See, this radioactive spider bites him and it changes his... If you watch the first Spider-Man, you'll see the DNA graphics. They're altering his DNA, and you see that in this scene here. Now, for some reason, they decided to remake the Spider-Man series. I mean, it just came out like 10 years ago. Now they're going to redo it again and start all over again. And in this one, Peter Parker finds out that his dad, his real dad, actually did research with a guy named Kurt Connor, CC, that's 33, who's got his right arm missing. And Kurt Connor is into doing all this research with reptiles. Why? Because certain reptiles have this regenerative power to regenerate. So Kurt Connor is going to learn how to take the DNA from snakes and serpents and mingle them into the DNA of mankind. He's a specialist in cross-species genetics. I took notes while I'm watching this movie, and I'm going, okay, I get it. I can't enjoy a movie anymore. I'm taking notes during this thing. Here's what jumped out at me. And I only found one clip of this. I don't actually have the movie, or I'd have done a screen capture of it. I found like one clip of this on the internet. Peter Parker goes to Oscorp. You know who Oscorp is. Oscorp actually is doing all this stuff on genetics and everything like that. And in the building of Oscorp, they have this hologram that they call the Tree of Life. Now, I saw that and I went, I know what that is. The Kabbalah, the Sephiroth. Now, let me go back to the Garden of Eden. There were two trees. There was the tree of life that God told Adam he could eat of and he would live forever. Then there was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The devil takes everything and turns it around. Because in the Kabbalah, and here's a graphic of the tree of life from the Sephiroth. And the Sephiroth, the tree of life, actually goes back to ancient Sumeria. Notice this Sephiroth, the tree of life in the Kabbalah. You have these circles on one side and the circles on the other, and then you have these circles in the middle. And I'll briefly explain to you what this is. On the right side, you have the masculine, the male, Yahweh. On the other side, you have the female, Shekinah. You didn't know that. Shekinah is not in the Bible. Shekinah is from the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. And the concept is when Yahweh and Shekinah come together, they're going to form the Superman, the super race that is going to turn a man into a god. And there's a lot of things on the Kabbalah I don't have time to get into today. But that's what Oscorp was all about. It was about the tree of life. It was about the fusion of the opposites. And so, what is the real tree of life? It's not the tree of life that God made in the Garden of Eden. It's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because that's what's in the Kabbalah, the Sephiroth tree of life. The masculine represents good, the feminine represents evil. And they're joined together. What is the yin-yang symbol? There's a little good in all evil and a little evil in all good. A little white in black and a little black in white. That's what that represents. That's what that means. So the tree of life in the Kabbalah is not really the tree of life. It's the tree of knowledge of good and evil that the devil promised Eve that if she ate of it, she would be as the gods and not surely die. Think about it. Altering DNA. The Hulk. You remember the Hulk? Okay. David Banner from the 70s series. I never missed an episode. I was like the Hulk maniac back then. I watched this. I thought it was the neatest thing in the world. Lou Ferrigno, high five. Man, I loved you. Okay? And they actually put Lou Ferrigno in the first Hulk movie as sort of a walk-on cameo. Kind of like Stan Lee and all these Marvel movies. He always got to show up in those movies. Okay? Anyway. The Hulk. He's got something in his blood. And you remember they got him in the underground chamber They've got him locked up in there, underground, in the pit. And while he's down there, the evil guy has got a needle up to him, trying to extract the Hulkness out of him. Why? He wants to create a super soldier, just like Hitler did. A race, a breed of supermen that cannot be killed. Immortality. And the Hulk. You find out from the Avengers that the guy playing Bruce Banner actually said at one point that he put a bullet into his head. And the other guy, referring to the Hulk, spit it out. So he's immortal. He can't die. There's no way he can die. DNA alteration. The Fantastic Four. Remember the four, the fourth kingdom, 4400? Here you have physicist Dr. Reed Richards, and he's convinced that evolution was triggered millions of years ago on Earth by clouds of cosmic energy in space. Now, here's what this is saying. Like Blavatsky said, like Crowley said, evolution didn't just happen, Darwin, you idiot. Evolution was made to happen. And that's what Reed Richards believed. So he believed that this cosmic energy, that's what the New Age teaches, the cosmic energy actually triggered man's evolution. And so Reed Richards calculates that there's these clouds that are going to pass by Earth, and he figures that they're going to trigger man's evolution again. Well, you know the story. They get too close. Who was it? The other guy in there that with the hood or whatever. Anyway, he gets transformed, and all four of them get transformed. And be honest, you would love to have some of these superpowers, wouldn't you? I mean, Reed Richards is like the Elastic Man, who doesn't have to ask his wife to get him soda out of it. They decide to go public with it, and everybody calls them the Fantastic Four. They've got uniforms, and they're going to save the planet from the silver serpent. All this stuff, and you find out that Reed Richards has a laboratory at the Baxter Building on the 33rd floor. Just happens to be right on that floor. And you look this up. You go watch the movie. It's there, right on the 33rd floor is where they are. Think of the levels of Freemasonry, and you work up now to where you're an immortal on the 33rd level, 33rd floor. That's what that's dealing with. That's what that's talking about. And I could go on and on and on. I've read and studied and put all these things together. I've got notes actually that I didn't know where to fit them in on this thing. It would have taken forever. All the comic books, all the movies that we could talk about, all the things that, and I've had people help me with the research, all the things that I could have put together on this thing to show you the end and the aim of the imaginative process and what's being planted inside the fertile ground of the vain imagination of mankind. And that's what God dealt with in Genesis 11. When they spoke the 46 words, God said, whatever they imagine to do, they're going to do. I got to put a stop to this. And he did. Man's just going to do it again. We're going to bring ourselves back together and do it again. Only this time much worse. We're on the verge. And you and I both know this. If I were to spend time showing you all the research that's being done right now, but you already know it. We're being fed some of this piecemeal, a little bit at a time. Do they already have the solution for immortality? I don't know. But mankind is racing toward becoming a god. Not through the cross of Jesus Christ. No. By some sort of cosmic intervention. The fourth kingdom mingling themselves with the seed of men. But you got to get people there. They've got to. You see, I believe the Bible teaches that nobody is going to be dragged to some government center somewhere, kicking and screaming, and get a tattoo on their right hand or forehead. I don't believe that. I think the Bible clearly teaches that the false prophet causes everyone to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. All of this that I've been showing you is the work of the false prophet to deceive people by use of visuals, icons, imageries, symbols, movies, computer graphics, indoctrinating people into the mystery schools. Let me show it to you how the Bible says it. Deuteronomy 13. God said, if there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams. So let's stop right here. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Neil Gaiman, some of these other guys, they sat and dreamed this stuff up. Okay? Maybe they were sitting at home, maybe they were in a trance, maybe they were in the Himalayas, like that one guy said. But this came to them by way of their imagination. They dreamed it. So God said, if there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, a comic book artist, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods. That's that fourth kingdom. That's all those superheroes, the aliens that are going to come down and make everything better for us. Which thou hast not known, let us serve them. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God proveth you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. So you know what? You know what's going on? All this, God's letting all this stuff happen. You know, God could have just made everybody believe the Bible, or else. He could have done that. But he likes to give man choice. He did that in the Garden of Eden. He put two trees right next to each other and he said, eat this one, don't eat that one. He wanted to see what Adam would choose. Mankind has a choice. And so God says, I want to let these guys draw these comic books and make these movies, the dreamer of dreams. And they're all leading you to believe, let us go after other gods. And God said, they're there to prove you. Do you want it my way? By the cross of Jesus, the resurrection of Christ. Do you want it that way? Because I'll give it to you, free. Or do you want it their way? Choice is yours. But he sends these false prophets. He allows them to do what they're doing to give you a choice. Choose you now this day whom you will serve. Joshua said, but it's me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. Joshua was saying, we're not going to sit and read comic books all day long. Deuteronomy 32:17. They sacrificed unto devils, not to God. To gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Judges 5:8 said, they chose new gods. Then was war in the gates, and there was a shield. Was there a shield or spear seen among 40,000 in Israel? New gods. Son of Satan, Superman, Thor, Spider-Man, Hulk. New gods. Following after the new gods. God warned us about that. And then in Revelation 13, here is the description of the false prophet. Notice what it says. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Remember, he is the dying God who is resurrected. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. So his job is to deceive by means of superpower, signs and wonders, and miracles, and things, and fire coming down from heaven, to deceive mankind so that they build an image to the beast and do exactly what God said not to do, and that is pray to the image. God said don't do that. So God's saying you can do it my way or you can do it their way. One of the two. So I mean, let me just pull this out here. And you decide the Son of God or the son of Satan, because that's who he is. Then in Revelation verse 15, he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and caused that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And y'all know what that number is, don't you? 666. Did you know that at one time, I'm not making this up, at one time, DC Comics' address in New York City was 666, whatever street they were on. Go look it up. That's where they used to. I remember reading a comic book, I was a DC guy, and I went, they're at 666 something something Avenue. They've moved since then. That's where they used to be. So the false prophet has power to give life to the image of the beast, cause it to speak. He's got superpowers, and he causes all, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, the six, to receive a mark in their right hand or forehead. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'll show you. Revelation 14:9. The third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. This is where the prophets of the son of Satan are taking everybody. This is where they're going, to lead you to receive the mark. You are going to make a choice to do this. You'll only be given two choices. You won't be able to, well, I'm going to opt out. You have the tree of life or the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Which one? I think I don't want either one of them. Thank you. I'm not hungry. It's one or the other. Choose life or choose death. But you choose. The goal of guys like me, Christian ministers, ministers of the gospel, is to try to lead you to the choice that chooses God, chooses life, and God's version of immortality through the cross of Christ. Their job is through symbols and subtlety and snaky stuff and comic books and movies and commercials. Oh, it's in commercials big time. To get you and to prepare you to receive your transformation, your godhood, your mark. That's where it's going. That's what he's trying to get you to do. And it's working. It's working amazingly well. When these movies come out, the Wolverine and Superman, and they outdo every movie that's come out this summer, and everybody in the world is going to see this stuff. It's working. And at some point, when the time is right, they're going to choose the mark. They're going to choose what the false prophet set up for them. It's working very well. Your antidote to all this is to believe this old book. See, it's all falling apart here. That's because I read it, I study it, I think about it. This book is everything that I believe and everything I stand in. Right here is the tree of life. This is what I've chosen. Which side do you want to be on? Oh, trust me. The superheroes with the powers, and they tell everybody, you just alter your DNA and you can be able to jump a tall building in single bound, turn invisible, turn stuff into fire, reach stuff, whatever. I'm there. I'm there. Okay? That's my flesh. That's what I want to do. But I know the consequences. I'll turn it down. I'll take the tree of life. Why don't you? Thank you. Thank you for listening to all this. Thank you for helping me with the research. Those of you that help, thank you for your prayers. Keep praying for us. The devil hates us. I'm used to it. Not really. Anyway, the devil hates us. Wants to try to destroy us. You pray for us. We thank you so much. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.